Tonight, tension crackles through the global financial atmosphere like static before a storm. The air inside the dinar community feels charged, electric, as if everyone can sense that something historic is quietly taking shape behind closed doors. Banks are moving differently, systems are going silent, and investors, both small and large, can feel the eerie calm that always comes right before something massive unfolds. In the middle of it all stands one voice, a man whose messages have guided, challenged, and inspired thousands across years of uncertainty, Frank 26. And just days ago, his latest broadcast shook the entire currency world. His words were not casual. They were deliberate, measured, and unsettling. He said, "We are entering the week of confirmation." And with that, everything changed. Across Telegram channels, financial networks, and private investor circles, those 6 words ignited a countdown that no one can see, but everyone can feel. Something is coming. And this time, it feels real. From the moment Frank's message hit the airwaves, the rhythm of the community shifted. Telegram groups that normally buzzed with rumor and speculation suddenly turned focused, silent, waiting. On X, formerly Twitter, posts began flooding timelines with cryptic messages, screenshots, and whispers that banks had gone into after-hours lockdowns. Currency traders started reporting unusual transaction freezes. Even small online exchanges began to delay IQD conversions without clear explanations. Behind the screens, emotions ran high: fear, hope, disbelief, and excitement all at once. For years, investors have chased hints of the long-promised revaluation, the RV, that could change lives overnight. But this time, something in the tone of Frank's warning felt unmistakably different. He didn't sound like a man repeating speculation. He sounded like a man watching history move. That subtle difference, that edge of conviction, is what has the world of IQD holders glued to their screens tonight. As reports trickled in from inside Iraq, the energy only intensified. Normally reliable sources, ones that had been silent for months, began to stir again. Conversations among regional bankers, economists, and traders hinted that something big was being quietly coordinated. Meetings were taking place late into the night. Communications between Baghdad and key international financial partners had ramped up. For the first time in years, the pattern looked organized, almost synchronized. Observers noted an unusual alignment between the Central Bank of Iraq, major financial consultancies in Dubai and London, and Western clearing systems. Each movement, though small, pointed toward one possibility. Iraq's financial network may be preparing for integration, the very step that must happen before any rate realignment can go global. For seasoned watchers, that was the first real sign in a decade that this might not be another rumor, but the start of execution. Meanwhile, back in the United States, bank insiders began whispering about something they hadn't seen before: enhanced foreign currency readiness. This phrase, used internally within financial institutions, signals that certain systems are being adjusted for potential rate updates or access restrictions. One mid-level manager at a large U.S. bank reportedly told colleagues that IQD transactions had been temporarily paused. No public explanation was offered, but the instruction came from high up. When information like that spreads, it never stays hidden for long. Within hours, the story rippled through investor forums, and the message was clear. Something behind the curtain had shifted. And when those whispers aligned perfectly with Frank 26's own timing, the community erupted with speculation. Could this be the final stage before public confirmation? Could this be the week that ends years of waiting? Frank's words, "This week changes everything," suddenly felt more like a prophecy than a prediction. To understand why this warning struck so deep, you have to understand the years behind it. For over a decade, the dinar community has lived in cycles of anticipation and disappointment, moments when hope soared, only to crash under another delay or denial. But throughout all of it, Frank remained a steady voice, balancing faith and realism, guiding his listeners through every twist in Iraq's reform journey. His credibility comes not from hype, but from history, a long trail of accurate insights, calm corrections, and verifiable clues. So, when he speaks in that particular tone, low, deliberate, almost reverent, People listen differently. They don't just hear another update, they feel a signal. That's what happened this week. Because for Frank to call this the week of confirmation means something behind the scenes has already been decided. The paperwork may not be public yet, but the momentum has already begun. In Baghdad, unusual scenes have been unfolding. Reports describe midnight activity at the central bank, cars arriving at odd hours, security tightened, lights burning long past closing. Staff have been seen entering through side gates, and unmarked vehicles have been spotted delivering sealed briefcases. None of it is official, but every sign points toward preparation. Iraq's government, too, has gone unusually quiet. Prime Minister al-Sudani, who had been vocal about financial reform earlier this year, hasn't spoken publicly in weeks. That silence, to insiders, is not accidental. It's the kind of strategic quiet that happens before big announcements, when every word could move markets. Meanwhile, a few journalists in Baghdad are hinting that television networks have been ordered to prepare economic broadcasts. The air in Iraq feels tense, focused, as though the entire system is holding its breath. And across the ocean, investors are doing the same. Frank's stream that night carried a tone unlike any before. He didn't speculate. He warned. He told his audience that the waiting was ending, not because of emotion, but because execution was underway. They've held the line long enough, he said softly, and now they're ready to let go. Those two words, let go, have become a rallying cry within the dinar world. People posted them across social media, some with tears, others with disbelief, because let go might finally mean the release of something that has been restrained for years, the long-discussed currency revaluation. But beyond that emotional surface lies a deeper layer of logic. If the infrastructure is ready, if digital systems between Iraq and Western banks are already linked, then the technical barriers are gone. What remains now is timing. And that, Frank suggested, is what this week is all about. Multiple contacts connected to international finance have quietly confirmed that over the past 10 days, specialized firms in Dubai and London have been conducting live connection tests. These tests involve verifying rate feeds, compliance codes, and real-time data transfers between Iraq's internal systems and global clearing platforms. It's the final rehearsal before activation. When those systems sync successfully, it means the infrastructure is ready for use. That's not speculation. That's protocol. Similar procedures have been seen in past international monetary transitions. What's unusual this time is the speed. These tests reportedly began early last week and have continued daily without delay. Financial analysts call it the quiet before the switch. Each completed test moves Iraq closer to flipping from isolation to integration. And that's when rates become real. If true, Frank's message wasn't premature. It was perfectly timed. But while technology moves quickly, human emotion moves differently. Inside investor groups, the atmosphere this week has been both euphoric and cautious. People who've held dinar for years, some since the early 2000s, are balancing hope with fatigue. They've seen false alarms before, but something about this time feels different. The pieces are lining up too neatly: Iraq's silence, the bank alerts, the sudden freeze of small transfers, and Frank's calm, almost spiritual certainty. He even said during his broadcast, hope doesn't die. It just rests. And this week, hope wakes up. That single sentence struck a chord, because for thousands of investors, this has been more than financial waiting. It's been emotional endurance. Families have prayed, communities have formed, and through it all, faith has been the only currency that never lost value. Behind the faith, though, lies strategy. Sources indicate that Iraq's central bank and U.S. regulators have been in communication more often than publicly reported. The U.S. Treasury recently acknowledged Iraq's impressive progress in anti-corruption enforcement and international compliance, language that many believe signals approval for deeper financial integration. For years, Iraq's monetary reform was slowed by trust issues and technical isolation. But those barriers seem to be dissolving. With new digital compliance systems, blockchain tracking, and real-time verification tools, Iraq can now connect safely to international platforms without risking instability. And when you combine that with increasing oil revenue, new trade agreements with China, and rising economic confidence, the timing for a currency adjustment becomes not just ideal,
but inevitable. Frank's message might have simply been the translation of what's already happening behind closed doors. Financial watchers in Europe have also begun noticing something curious. Several banks connected to the SFT network have quietly started flagging IQD transactions for manual review, a step usually taken only when exchange rate updates are expected. This isn't public news. It's the kind of technical signal that only insiders see, but it's consistent with every other clue in the puzzle. When multiple regions, Iraq, the US, and Europe, begin showing synchronized system behavior, it points to coordination. And coordination on this scale rarely happens unless something official is in motion. The world may not see the announcement yet, but the digital systems already know it's coming. One trader put it best in a private forum: the screen always knows before the world does. And right now, the screens are flashing signs of change. Still, amidst all this excitement, there's caution. Frank himself reminded listeners that no one will announce this transition with fireworks or headlines. "It will be confirmed with silence," he said. That phrase has gone viral across the dinar world, shared as both a warning and a prophecy. Because silence in this context means activation, systems updating quietly behind the scenes, banks adjusting rates internally, and confirmation arriving not through words, but through numbers. When rates begin to move, it won't be loud.
It will be invisible until suddenly it's undeniable. That's why this week feels so heavy. Every hour that passes could be another invisible click in a countdown that only insiders can see. For those who have been here since the beginning, this isn't just about currency. It's about destiny. Iraq's story is one of endurance and rebirth. From conflict to reconstruction, from sanctions to reform, every chapter has led to this moment. And Frank 26 has often reminded his audience that this journey mirrors life itself. Long seasons of testing followed by breakthrough. During his most recent stream, he became emotional. "When God moves," he said, "he doesn't need a headline." To many, that line wasn't financial, it was spiritual. It meant that what's coming doesn't need public approval. It will simply be, and that's why believers in this process are calm tonight. They're not chasing rumors anymore. They're waiting for confirmation, the quiet kind that changes everything without saying a word. Analysts observing Iraq's recent economic patterns agree that something unusual is indeed happening. Oil contracts have expanded, foreign investments have increased, and the Iraqi dinar has shown rare stability despite global currency volatility. Normally, such calm before a storm signals one thing: controlled preparation. Iraq cannot sustain two parallel exchange systems indefinitely. Maintaining dual structures drains efficiency, invites corruption, and restricts trade. Transitioning to a unified, globally recognized rate is not just a choice, it's survival. And according to the timing of recent movements, that survival mechanism may already be in motion. When Frank said, "We're not waiting for permission anymore, we're waiting for execution," he wasn't exaggerating. Every signal points to activation, not talk, not planning, execution. Late reports from Baghdad describe unusual convoys near government buildings and private financial institutions. Security has tightened, staff rotations have shifted, and multiple eyewitnesses claim to have seen senior officials entering the central bank compound under heavy escort. Historically, such movements have preceded internal briefings before major policy actions. Whether this means rate discussions, financial restructuring, or digital currency integration, one thing is certain: Iraq is moving with urgency. Add to that the global economic environment, inflation, oil price fluctuations, digital banking reforms, and the pressure to act now becomes undeniable. Timing is everything in monetary policy, and Iraq's clock appears to be ticking faster than ever. In Washington, subtle but significant language has begun appearing in Treasury communications. Phrases like enhanced cooperation and structural modernization are being used when referencing Iraq's economy. These aren't casual words. They are often code for ready for transition. Combined with IMF consultations and Quiet World Bank oversight, this trio of influence, Treasury, IMF, and CBI has likely reached consensus. The puzzle that once seemed scattered is finally forming a clear picture. And Frank's statement, "This week changes everything," suddenly sounds less like hope and more like translation. Translation of data, of readiness, of reality. Something that began as speculation may now be unfolding as confirmation. As this week progresses, all eyes are on movement, not noise. Investors are watching transaction times, monitoring small bank behavior, tracking system downtimes, and noting changes in tone from officials. Because that's where truth hides, not in headlines, but in the gaps between them. Every delay, every pause, every unexpected update could be the invisible hand flipping a switch somewhere deep in the digital architecture of finance. And when that switch flips, the world won't hear a sound, but those who've been watching, waiting, will know instantly. Because their screens will tell them everything. This is the week of silence before the storm. And maybe, just maybe, the storm has already begun. So tonight, as the world sleeps, the countdown continues. The markets are calm, but the pulse beneath them is racing. In homes around the world, people sit quietly, holding their breath, watching their screens, and repeating those 5 haunting words. This week changes everything. Whether it's a revaluation, a digital transition, or a complete financial restructuring, one truth remains undeniable: something is happening. The signs are too consistent, the silence too coordinated, the tone too final. And as Frank 26 said in his closing words, "I'll see you on the other side of history." For the believers, that side may finally be within reach. For the doubters, the evidence is already whispering louder than any announcement could. The world is on the edge of confirmation, and the silence tonight is louder than ever.